dated by today's standards. The action scenes are poor and the acting is mainly dodgy.
I hate this person.
Ooh, I don't like this at all.
How dare they?
If you're looking for a good Jackie Chan film as a starter, this is not it.
No.
This is not it.
Now, for a modern audience, that's kind of a fair take.
No, that is completely wrong.
Apart from a few nice stunts from Chan, this film has nothing going for it. Very disappointed.
Woo! Spicy.
That was a series of 3-star reviews from IMDb. Hello and welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm Ryan, joined as always by Andrew.
Hello.
And Steven.
So is that how hard you had to dig to get a good review?
There were no 1 stars on IMDb for this movie.
I wonder why.
Because it's really good.
It's really good.
Sometimes when we hit a good movie, it's a struggle.
It is a struggle.
So,
yeah.
and again, each 3-star review is like a sentence, so I put 3 of them together. Okay, and in this episode, if you can't already tell, we're reviewing Jackie Chan's explosively funny Hong Kong action comedy, Police Story.
Yep.
Let me start with a plot summary.
Good luck.
Synopsis, if you will.
Good luck.
A virtuous Hong Kong police officer must clear his good name when the drug lord he's after frames him for the murder of a dirty cop.
Which is really weird because like that plot thread doesn't happen until like
Over halfway through the movie almost.
That's a solid plot.
It is.
Except they don't do that for a very long time.
A very long time. Yeah, but I guess writing it the other way would be like, there's a guy, and then like this happens.
He's a good guy. We promise he's a good guy.
And then like there's a girl, and he's a real good guy. He kind of seems like a sleaze, but it's okay because he's already a guy.
It would be
That's
So
where
anyways,
the comedy comes in.
Comedy.
Yeah. This was released in Hong Kong on December 14th, 1985.
Yep.
Directed by Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
And there was another guy credited, but I think he like did assistant directing on some stuff.
Yeah, this was Jackie Chan's first directorial debut.
Right.
Essentially.
Yeah. Written by Jackie Chan and Edward Tang. Music by Mark Shyman, who did A Few Good Men, Sister Act, and Mary Poppins Return. No, sorry. That's incorrect. I had the wrong info here. I was like, wait, that's not true. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. I did not copy it over. Anyways, I'll get back to that in a second. Starring Jackie Chan, Maggie Cheung, Bridget Lin, Ewan Chor, Bill Tung, and many more Jackie Chan movie favorites. So, obviously, you see a lot of, if you've seen Jackie Chan movies, you see
a lot of the
favorites.
same people.
Time and time again,
Budget was very tough for this. The info is extremely sparse, and it's not exactly all apples to apples. So, like, there's some sources that have, like, how much the budget cost in Hong Kong was $2 million US at the time.
Yeah.
Or is that with inflation? I don't know.
Yeah,
that's
there's
the
just
problem.
Not
Like
enough information.
And then the box office, even bigger question mark, because like the worldwide box office now includes both the original release plus a release in the US in like 04, and then it's like it's
all
again.
over the place.
Is that the inflation adjusted Hong Kong original release with the new US from 04, or is that just like
20 years later?
Take a shot at it. What's the number?
It was
What could it be?
It was like 80 million Hong Kong.
I mean,
I think
that's the thing is like it's still like it was a successful film.
Yeah. Especially in Asia. Apparently, all over Asia, it was huge, not just Hong Kong.
No doubt.
But yeah, it never made its way over here until like I want to say it was like mid 2000s with like
well after Jackie Chan had already established himself.
Yeah, the first Police Story that was over here was Super Cop, which is Police Story 3.
Yeah.
Was it the first one?
That was the first one released too.
The first Police Story.
It was Super Cop, then First Strike, I think.
Because First Strike is also a Police Story 4.
film.
Yeah, it was Police Story 4.
Because I saw that in theaters.
Yeah.
That's why I don't remember if Super Cop was in theaters.
But yeah, the first 2 Police Stories were not released over here.
Right. Okay.
Before Super Cop
until
and
after
First Strike.
Those hit here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just weird because the timeline on all sorts of stuff when you try to look it up is like it's a mixture of the original
Old
release
and new.
or the it was like 03 or 04, I think, release. And so like you start reading something like, oh, cool. And then you're like, wait, hold on. What is this? Is this referring to, because I think the US release in 04 only made like a tiny bit of money because it didn't get a huge theatrical release.
Yeah.
It was like $250,000 box office or something like that, you know? But the DVD sales, I'm sure, were crazy huge because by then, like you said,
Jackie Chan was a household name by then because of Rush Hour.
Yeah,
Shanghai
I mean, he'd
Shanghai
been in Western, exposed to Western markets at that point quite a bit.
Which is why they tried to bring it over. But it's kind of tough whenever it is an emphatically very different style film.
It's a very Hong Kong film,
Yes.
not a Western Hollywood film like Rush Hour or Shanghai Noon.
So to bounce back to the music, it was 3 people that did the music. There was Kevin Bassanon, Sui Tin Lai, and J. Peter Robinson. So I don't know who contributed what or in what capacity, any of that worked, but that was who did the music.
Well, whoever did the main theme did a bang up job.
Yeah, I would assume that'd be Sui Tin Lai because Jackie Chan sings it.
He does.
In the
Which
credits.
is always hilarious because I always forget that he had kind of like a
well, because he was in Chinese opera.
well,
he was
like
a pop star, basically.
Pop star career. Kind of doing like the Hasselbeck
Yeah.
play.
Hasselhoff?
Not the quarterback. Hasselhoff.
He played American football in Hong Kong.
But Jackie Chan is kind of a Renaissance man.
Yeah.
He does a lot of stuff.
Well, then he was directing and producing,
And also doing the fight choreography.
stunt choreography.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into some spoiler-free overall thoughts. What do you think, Andrew and Steven?
I am incredibly biased with this film.
Same.
This
Yes.
is my favorite Jackie Chan film, bar none.
Okay.
And
Not even close.
whatever.
It's one of my favorites for sure.
I think this is just one of the, for me, it's infinitely rewatchable because it has some fantastic comedy in it. The fight choreography is incredible. The stunts that they do are really cool.
Yeah.
And this is very much like kind of Jackie Chan at his peak.
I don't know if I would say his peak or it's his he's coming into his own.
Well, yeah, like
finally.
this is his first attempt to really be what he wanted to be for an action star.
Right.
And I think he nails it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this movie is the prototype for what he would do for like the next decade. Through like the
particularly
mid-90s.
in the early 90s.
Yeah.
To where he does a lot of stuff. And like, I'm not saying that like all the stunts and fight choreography are the best that he's ever done in this film.
Right.
I think this is just the best package that comes with everything. It has some story in there, has good comedy, and it has great action.
Yeah.
And awesome music too.
I mean, the music is really good.
The music's pretty great.
I love that, like, for me at least, this is the second time I've seen it with the actual Cantonese.
Which is fantastic
And
if you have the
because
Criterion collection.
For the
Blu-rays.
longest, all we had was the dubbed version.
The not good dub.
Yeah, because if you got it on VHS or DVD back in the 2000s when it came out, you had only the dub.
Yep.
That was probably the only version available.
And the original Cantonese language is the best way to watch it in.
But they also changed a lot of the music when they did the dub. They changed it with like generic action,
Yes, it is
Miramax,
weird choices.
2003, And so to see it with this, to hear like what I would call period accurate music, where it feels like the 80s, but it still feels like different because it's Hong Kong 80s.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love it.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steven, what do you think?
He's going to be that guy.
So the stunts
fine.
are great. The action is good. There's a lot of really cool things done here. And I agree, this is very much the prototype of who Jackie Chan wants to be as an action star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely feels its age, not just in terms of like one. It's very much set in the 80s, right? Like you said,
for
like,
sure.
The music,
Yeah.
especially sets it as this is both an 80s
Those
film, but
sunglasses
also
are also the 80s.
Oh, very much so. I think the comedy is a pretty big miss a lot of times.
Oh, disagree hard.
That's so interesting. I think this is one of his funnier films.
I don't think so at all. No, partly just because it's kind of a I don't want to call it single note, but there is a specific strand of comedy they do a lot with it that just kind of comes across where it just makes the main character feel dumb. And it's
he
not,
is
like,
kind of dumb.
not in a funny way.
I
Okay.
guess.
And then
I'm curious at where maybe we can get into that
we
in
can't
spoilers.
get into it until we
Yeah,
go.
sure.
And then the plot is I don't want to call the plot a mess. It's just not very tight, and it makes the film feel way longer than its actual runtime. Because it's only like an hour 40. It's a pretty fast film,
I guess.
time-wise, but it feels
I'm
like
also
the film
curious at what you're
goes
talking
a
about.
long
I am
way.
too, because I have thoughts.
Because I felt that this was definitely one of the more well put together
And what's
plots
interesting
for his films.
Is prior to watching this with like more like paying attention or whatnot, just like enjoying it as a Jackie Chan film. I've always just been like, yeah, it's not as polished as it could be, but it's got some great stuff in it, so I'm gonna put it on. Whereas watching it now, it's just like, boy, this really kind of drags at points. Like it's kind of almost.
I mean, you're not getting like a fight a minute.
No,
it's not like First Strike or even like Super Cop. But
no, it's
that's
not.
the thing is like it's a different it's a different kind of pace.
It is definitely. I mean, it definitely has more of the Hong Kong feel to it.
And just like we talked about with like the summary, like I feel like the story itself shifts gears a couple of times. It doesn't really almost have like an easy 3-act structure of like what the challenge is from the get. It's like here's like the first third of the movie is this problem that's being solved. The middle is this, and then the end is this. So it kind of has like 3 chapters.
I mean,
almost.
the synopsis basically only describes
the final third.
The final third, yeah.
It ignores most of the film.
The first half, yeah.
Yeah, because like you really like if we're going off that description or the synopsis, like it is definitely the first. You're missing 2/3 of the actual plot of the film,
right?
Which is us going through the motions of getting this crime boss to essentially like frame Jackie Chan or
to
Kakui.
actually get to the point where the synopsis begins, basically. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, I hate it so bad. Like there are some great stunts in this. We're gonna get into that past the spoiler wall. I know Andrew probably has.
Yeah.
Or no, Ryan. Sorry, has.
I've got a lot of trivia. It's mostly stunt related.
I also have a lot of trivia, but I'm sure it'll all be covered.
It's all be covered. Yeah. So I mean, there's some pretty crazy stuff that happens in this film throughout.
I would say that, like, for me, too, just top level, I think the execution of the stunts is
it's quite good.
It's really good. And I think if you were to show this, because I've shown clips from this to people who aren't Jackie Chan fans, of like, hey, check this out. They did this for real.
Yeah.
Like, there's no CG here. That's a dude. See that guy? That's a guy. Like, yeah, like, and
he drove a guy on a motorcycle through plate glass.
Yeah, actually, that's the only stunt where another stunt guy stood in for Jackie Chan in the whole movie. Fun fact.
It is.
But like I feel like this movie does have a lot of that where you could show someone scenes from it and be like, this is kind of a Jackie Chan movie. And they would be like, oh, wow, that's crazy. Look at
They're
this.
going nuts. Yeah.
Well, because a lot of especially the fight at the end in the mall, it's very visceral.
It is.
And like, everyone is just getting thrown through plate glass and jumping off escalators, and like it's definitely kind of like the quintessential Jackie Chan fight.
Yeah, well, again, almost the not proto, because this is like mid his career. It's after the 70s.
We're pretty far along.
But this is where he's really like utilizing a lot of the environment.
The environment, yeah. He's really kicking it up of like, it's not just I'm utilizing a chair or I'm doing something, with the railing here.
Yeah.
He's moving through the environment very well. Yeah.
And especially with all the plate glass and stuff. The fights too, I feel like are not as polished as some of the later ones.
No.
And some of the one-on-one fights, like there's no like showdown.
You don't get a Drunken Master 2
or even like a Wheels
like
on Meals
final showdown.
Like Benny the Jet fight.
But that's not like he's fighting the mob.
Right. So it makes sense. I'm not complaining
they're not
about
really
it.
Here to have like the one big dude here to fight. Like the old man's not gonna go toe to toe with him.
Although that would be awesome. That'd be ridiculous. Takes his vest off and he's like getting in there. I thought the performances were really good too. Like I always love Maggie Cheung, which she's in all the police, May, and all the the police story movies, Super Cop, all those. She always does a really good job, and especially in this movie, a lot of the comedy and a lot of the absurd situations,
definitely
revolves around her. And it is fun when you watch a lot of them to see like the relationship grow kind of and like where it goes eventually
or like not grow
or regress.
Yeah. Bill Tung, always great.
Oh yeah, Uncle Bill. He's in like so many movies, and he's always fun. And like even the police chief always to me looks like so young.
He does look really young.
And I think that they kind of were going for that idea of like, here's this young guy who got like promoted just because he knows the right people or whatever. But his performance is great. Like, and Bill obviously has a lot of the comedy too. Like, in his sections where like I'm acting like I'm mad, but I'm really on your side. Like that kind of stuff. But yeah, all the Chan like recurring cast of characters too, like the fellow cops that play his friends in other movies
Yeah.
and stuff. I think they all do a pretty good job. It really just like, I don't know, for me, it's not my favorite Jackie Chan movie, but it is, to me, a very good example of a Jackie Chan movie.
Yeah, like, and for me, it's really just everything kind of comes together for it, because like there are better fight scenes in other Jackie Chan films.
Oh, for sure.
And there are better comedy than other ones, but this has basically the best mix of everything.
Okay.
That's how it is for me.
I think there's other movies that have a better mix, but
I'd be curious.
I
to
would
see
say
what you
it's
say.
because they're later, like he took this formula and then perfected
he's developed
it.
the prototype further out. Yeah.
So it's tough because this is the entry, so it's like it's hard not to be like this is where it came from. But I do feel like there are some movies later in his career that like he took this formula and then like did it a little better to me.
Yeah.
If you want to slide down a pole and crash into a pile of content, you got to go to spoilersintendedpodcast.com.
Do you get electrocuted while you do that?
Absolutely. No, it's fine. It's perfectly safe. I'd recommend it for anyone, even children. Yeah, go to our website. Check it out. We got links to all of our previous episodes, content. We got links to Discord. We got links to the Patreon. We got links to our socials. We got links to all sorts of stuff. Speaking of Discord,
You should absolutely join us on Discord, because we have a great set of channels that you can come and join us in, of discussions about what we're watching, what we're listening to, what we're reading, what we're eating, your pets.
Show me your pets.
Spoiler wall for new shows that we're watching that
Yep.
we may or may not be reviewing. You don't know.
yeah.
Speaking of interacting with us, you can come check us out on socials. We're on count 'em, two, Facebook and Instagram. Check it out. When you see one of our posts out there, leave us a like, leave a comment, and share us with your friends.
淚如刺，真情是意，生命豁出去。
Love that song.
I love
Jackie
this song.
Chan has now sung us past the spoiler.
He
wall.
has sung us right past the spoiler wall.
It's every time I listen to it, I'm just like, oh yeah, Jackie, just do your thing.
Oh, Jackie.
Just do your thing, Jackie.
Lord.
All right. A lot of trivia.
There's a lot of
I
trivia.
pared a
boy,
lot of
here
it
we go.
down.
Buckle up.
Well, because there's one hunk of trivia that is like a page long about one specific stunt that we'll get to, the pole slide.
The pole slide, which is the big one.
It's the big one.
Always.
They loved it so much, and it was so dangerous
You could
that
see
they
it
wanted
3 times.
4 times.
4 times.
Because they show it in the credits.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh,
fair.
yeah. But so I had started pulling trivia, and like so much of the trivia was about that. And then I got to this page long blurb, and it basically summarized all the
All
little
of it,
trivia
yeah.
in a better. I was like, all right, I'm just going to read this page.
Just
here
read
a little
it.
bit. Okay. So before I get into that, here's some smaller ones. Jackie Chan's favorite film of his own is Police Story.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wonder why.
It's really good. The scenes where the villains crash through the bus window and fall onto the ground was an accident. They were really supposed to fall onto the car, but
Yep.
due to the air brakes of the bus, there was a pump back, creating space between the bus and the car.
Yeah, there's also a blooper where you almost see it run into Jackie.
Oh yeah, he
we're
like
almost gets
dives
hit by
out.
it, yeah.
But like when those dudes go out and they land on that concrete and it looks
Ouch.
so painful.
Ouch.
They look like they're going no, like the whole way down. Yeah, and it's like you don't realize in the moment that they're supposed to land on the car, and then like when it happens, you're like, man, those guys like just sold it for this
They just
movie.
kinda hit
yeah.
the ground. Like, you can't put a pad there or anything. Like,
Man,
woo.
Yeah.
they beefed it.
They did. I'm surprised somebody didn't break a neck right there. It looks
I mean, like the guy
rough.
in the front, like in the closest one to the camera, like it looks like he lands on the back of his neck.
It does. I was like, is that guy? I don't
Is
feel
he
fine
dead?
watching this. Is he
Yeah.
okay? Yeah. The producers used stunt sugar glass, but they did it twice as thick as ordinary stunt glass for greater realism. Unfortunately, this also led to a much higher injury rate among the stunt people.
Go figure.
Especially
surprising.
in the mall with all the glass that gets broken.
Man, whenever he hits he gets punched and or
he hits his
kicked and
head
it
on
hits
it?
his head
Yeah.
into the
Ooh.
glass.
Oh yeah,
Ooh.
yeah. It's So this is a kind of a fun one. The reason that Police Story, which is the literal translation of the name, had such a plain name was because every time Jackie Chan would start a new project in Hong Kong, everyone else followed. So, for example, when The Legend of Drunken Master was announced in like later in '94, but this is just an example. Every filmmaker started making drunken boxing movies. Like they greenlit them, started shooting to like, can we get it out before so that we can ride the wave that Jackie Chan's gonna go. So
gonna pave the way for us.
Yeah. With Police Story, no one knew what that meant or what to expect.
What is it going to happen?
Except a police movie.
Nice.
So at the time in Hong Kong cinema, no one had ever made a kung fu police movie either in like '85. So they were like,
yeah, it paved the way.
I don't know. So like they named it ostensibly so generically so that like nobody could like quickly beat them to market or be right on their tails to market. Okay, so let's talk about the pole slide stunt, which is obviously the
big stunt of the film,
the big finale. So here's I'm gonna take a deep breath because this is gonna be a long.
Oh boy.
Okay, in an undated interview included with the film's Criterion release, Jackie Chan estimates that his crew had already been shooting in the mall for several months before the pole slide. So by the time they got to the pole stunt, the Police Story production was under a lot of pressure from the mall to wrap it up because basically we need to get our mall back open.
We like the mall.
So by the time the pole stunt was set up, the sun had begun to rise. So they'd like filmed through the night. There was going to be a lot of broken glass to clean up before the mall could open in the morning. And so while Chan is somewhat infamous for taking the time to get his stunts right, in this instance, there was a real sense of like time.
We need to get it done.
Yeah.
So Chan and his team did not rehearse the stunt. And as if the stakes weren't high enough, there were no wires, crash nets, or safety nets. So they had like nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just a pile
I just
of
hope
candy bars
he doesn't die.
Yeah. So if Chan missed the pole, there would be nothing to catch him or break his fall. Like if he missed it,
It's just craziness.
he's just done so,
Yep.
like, yeah. To break his fall. The original plan was to power the lights with a low voltage car battery. But as they discovered on the day, the car battery just wasn't able to power the whole structure because there's so many lights, right? So they had to just plug it into wall sockets. So this meant that the voltage of the building itself could potentially electrocute Chan. To assuage Chan's understandable concern, the tech crew assured him that if anything went wrong, they would simply cut the power. So Chan perched on the guardrail 6 floors above his final destination, a prop kiosk shielded by sugar glass. He told the crew that he would give a signal before initiating the stunt. He said, when I nod, I'm going, right? Chan was, by his own admission, rather scared.
You could.
That-
I always
yeah, you could
love
see-
this. I always love it because he gives like the yell to hype himself up.
So that's coming. So a member of the JC stunt team snuck a good luck totem into Chan's pocket during a hug. As Chan tells it, a crew member mistook a nervous neck motion for the go signal, right? So someone shouts, rolling really loud when he twitched his head or whatever.
Stretching his neck out, yeah.
And the deathly quiet atrium filled with the motors of all 12 high-speed cameras. Okay? So that amount of camera coverage was exceptional for the time, especially within Chan's own filmography. But they only had like one shot at it, and they only had about 400 feet of film. So knowing this, Chan lets out a scream and just jumps.
Like an animal.
Yeah. By Chan's estimate, the distance from the guardrail to the pole was about 8 feet, which he cleared without a running start from an unstable crouching position. During the descent, the string lights did not electrocute Chan, but they did have a different unforeseen effect.
Yeah.
Incandescent light bulbs are very hot to the touch. They can even ignite paper and certain kinds of cloth with direct contact. The heat, coupled with the friction of the descent, resulted in second-degree burns on Chan's palms. The instant Chan hits the floor, he gets up and starts fighting. This is all the more impressive considering, as Chan relays in his autobiography, the impact of the fall dislocated his pelvis and caused a back injury that could have been paralyzing. As Chan tells it, his adrenaline was so high that the stuntman he wails on had to tell him to stop. They wrapped the shoot and had a celebratory beer at 6 a.m. Chan then made his way to the Heart of the Dragon set where he promptly crashed.
What an animal,
Just
man.
What an
insane.
animal.
Like, can you imagine you make this leap, you know there's no safety, anything below you, and it's like you hold this pole, and as soon as you grab it, you're like, this pole is very hot.
And then you're
the more I
sliding
slide,
down,
the hotter it gets.
and it's like, there's no other option.
Yeah.
You're halfway down the pole going, it's going to get hotter. There's going to be more glass, but I can't crawl back up the pole. You're just like, you're in it, you know?
Oh, man.
Just insane.
The craziest thing too is that, like, I remember the first time I saw this stunt, I wasn't as impressed as I could have been, probably because I'd seen other Jackie Chan stunts that I thought were
more
wilder.
dangerous or
especially
crazier.
like he lands inside the kiosk. Like, what a perfect place to put a nice couple of pads, some
Right.
cushions. Very obviously, right? His stunt team's in there for him. The
Yeah.
pads are there. It's just a control. No, it's just
None of it.
just a structure. He just crashes through.
Yeah,
People are crazy.
It's kind of like we were talking about in our Mission Impossible series, which you can check out on spoilersintendedpodcast.com.
Shameless show.
Where we talk about like some of stunts, Tom Cruise's stunts are like less impressive, but they're actually probably way more dangerous
Way more
than the
dangerous.
other ones.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's that distortion of like, this one looks more impressive, but he was on the side of a plane, you know. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Of like, I think I've seen other Jackie Chan stunts that seemed more visually incredible,
Impressive?
but this was probably actually one of the most dangerous things he's ever done on film. You know what I mean?
It was definitely up there. I know there's another one that was one of his actual most dangerous that he really did get injured for. He like basically hit his head on a tree branch.
Oh, yeah.
That he fell down and like almost killed
I think
him.
that was like Operation Condor,
Something like
and
that.
that,
or
and
one
that
of them,
stunt
Armor
doesn't
Gun.
even look that dangerous.
No.
He
Right.
just kind of like goes over the tree, and I think like his foot catches or something, and it turns him around.
Well,
Yeah.
and there's like I think it's Operation Condor 2 where he like slips on a chain and like he's swinging on it and he like falls.
Some-
and he,
yeah, something
he
like
like
that.
dislocates his entire collarbone and something else broke, and it was like this
Yeah.
real like whoa like touch and go thing, and you're like it looks like a little I fell. You know, compared I've seen this guy go down 2 stories and like get up, you know, and it's just wild that like some of the things you don't think about being incredibly dangerous really are. This
Yeah.
one does look dangerous. To be clear, I'm not trying to be like
Yeah.
oh yeah, just jump on a pole and ride
The
down.
thing is, though, like again, looking at it from the outside, it looks like there's plenty of opportunity for him to have a wire on him. There's pads under here. Yada. No, there's none of that.
Yeah.
What?
He just did it. Yeah.
He
What?
just did it. Yeah, that's wild.
So one of my other favorite stunts from this film, it's not really like particular one in general, but it's when he's fighting the guys kind of like right outside the parking garage and he's jumping through the car.
Oh yeah, where he kicks the guy who's in the front seat trying to get to Selena in the back seat. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm curious at like what Steven you don't like about the comedy.
Yeah.
It's just kind of dumb.
Okay.
Well,
it's
he's
the
kind
whole-
of a doofus.
I mean, he
Speak
is
on
kind
that.
of a dude, but it's the whole thing, like where he's on the phone while May is actually standing behind him, pretending to have a conversation
Yeah.
while Selena's sitting there, and like they do it once, and they've did it again with like the shower, then they do it with the phone, and they do it again, and it's kind of like this is really just like let it go. Like
I don't
it
know.
was-
See, I like give me more.
Well, see,
give me more.
That's one of those
just-
like that little bit is not one of the laugh out loud moments for me, but there's a couple other just kind of like because it builds on top of just how
I mean, a little bit, yeah, but like there are other bits throughout the film that are way funnier.
I like the police station when he's knocked
the
down
phones.
with the phones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like,
That's-
it
that's-
escalates the whole way through until finally it crescendos in like.
And he's like hanging up the phones, and he turns around. He's just like, "Wait, hold on. Why is this wire
Then
going
he
across
eats
here?"
the erasers on the pencils.
Yeah,
like,
like that kind of stuff works way better, I think, than some of the earlier stuff. It doesn't help that again we're real early in the film when it's like where are we going with this exactly?
well, but I think
Yeah.
it's really just establishing
who he is as a person.
who he
is.
just is as a person, which he's kind of a dick.
And this is
Because
also
up to
the
that point, we've
first-
just seen him as a cop, basically.
well, this is the first film in what is like a 6 or 7 film
Six
series at this point.
films.
I think 6 because
Yeah.
there's Crime Story technically counts, but I think it's like
Yeah,
Not
then he came
Jason
out with
or
a
whatever.
more recent one that was just Police Story again.
there was one called New Police Story from
Yeah.
like 08 or 9.
Well,
It
like
was not
like
good.
you do have to establish who characters are, right? Because it's
Sure.
the
Yeah.
start of maybe I don't know. They were
I don't know if they
planned
knew
on
it was
being,
like
but
that, yeah.
They need to establish some of who that is. I just think we lose so much time and
Mm-hmm.
momentum because like we kicked this off, which one it's always buck wild to be like I'm turning on a Hong Kong martial arts film, time to watch everyone gunfight.
It was, yeah.
And it's a little
interesting.
throws you off a little bit, but like that whole sequence, everything about that is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
running cars through like shanty towns. He's
Oh, yeah.
dragged
Which-
behind on a bus.
which Michael Bay just completely ripped off.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
completely.
From Bad Boys too.
Oh,
He was just
yeah.
like, I
Yeah.
like that. I'm going to do that with no notes.
No, yeah,
Should we change it all?
shot for shot.
Let's go to the same place. Michael, we can't do that.
Like, surely those buildings are still there, right?
Yeah.
But like you have the bus chase, like all that, like up to that point, like things are like rocking along. And then like the movie just, it's not like, oh, well, we're not fighting anymore, so it's slower. It just hits the brakes and throws you out the front of a bus and doesn't give you a car to land on.
He says this because, right after there was a big fight with cars and henchmen, trying to kill Selena right outside the parking garage.
He's talking before that.
I'm talking before that.
Right before that happens.
What?
When they're having the stuff in the apartment with May and the cake and all that.
Now, see, that's
that is after.
That's after.
Yeah.
See,
So wait, what are you talking?
All that happens.
Yeah.
The break point is the confrontation with May and all that. Like you have all this other stuff that's going, and you're kind of like, okay, I see where this is going. Like the bit with like his friend is pretending to be a killer, so that she'll actually trust him. Which whatever.
It's fantastic.
But
I
also-
like the last of, let's finish him off. He's got the giant thing. He's like, stop.
Well, because it just
part
keeps
is,
escalating.
That part's funny.
Yeah.
And like,
So is it
the
just the relationship comedy stuff you don't like?
Again, but like the bit before that in the police station, right, where they pull the rope-a-dope on Selena, where it's like, hey, we're gonna have a few questions, kick the lawyer out, and they just don't talk to her.
Yeah.
Like,
Which I think that's just a fantastic tactic.
It's a great move, yeah.
That's such a good play where it's like, hey, she's gonna walk out there. What did you talk about? Nothing. Well, everyone's suspicious of you now.
You can tell me. I'm the lawyer.
You
They didn't say anything.
don't have any friends, and now they're gonna want to come after
Yeah.
you. It's gonna push you into our camp. Like that, plot wise, beautiful setup, brilliantly done, well played, et cetera, et cetera. It leads into, again, Jackie trying to push her to trust him with the whole like, my friend's gonna pretend to kill you, so you actually believe
Right,
there's
yeah.
danger.
Yeah.
Which is played for laughs, and like midway through the sequence, my wife was like, "Is this guy like just flailing around? Like, I don't understand what's going on." And then it reveals,
that it's his friend.
that's his friend doing it.
Yeah.
Which we have that backfire later, of course. But it's right when we hit the relationship stuff, and like if we had played out that gag once and then we kind of moved on, yeah, okay, funny gag, works, whatever. But when we keep going back to it, it's like, can we like punch somebody or go somewhere or like pull off another tactic where we trick her into giving us more information? I don't anything.
I mean, I get it.
I agree to disagree. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But for me, I love the May stuff. It might be some of my favorite stuff in the movie.
Well, 'cause
and
it
I look
really-
forward to. I really do, because every of the Super Cops, First Strike, Police Story 2, all of it. I'm like, give me that action where he's gonna be dumb in front of May. I can't wait for it.
Well, or just there's gonna be some random misunderstanding or whatever.
Yeah.
And I love that that whole sequence actually escalates with him getting hit in the face with a cake.
Like 4 times.
Like four times.
I think too, like part of it might be, at least in '85, and I'm huge supposition here. No info to pull this from, but like maybe what it is like that's kind of the style of comedy from
very much so.
80s in Hong Kong movies. And so this was really like a true marriage of like what a pure comedy movie with no action it would be like. You know, like
like a situational comedy.
situational. And I think probably too, especially with Hong Kong stuff, there's probably a lot of relationship centered comedies and stuff. So maybe this was what you might be
the good
seeing
mix.
is like the influence of him trying to take the martial art comedy and bring in some of that.
Yeah.
And it might be the friction
it's
of those things.
It's just so interesting to me because I think there's a lot of cool plays within the plot, like the bit of they just leave her and they don't talk to her in the interview.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
like the dirty cop double crosses Jackie to immediately get double crossed because why do we need you now kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like stuff like that. Like you can go watch, modern day police shows and they're still pulling these same kind of stunts,
Yeah.
right? Because it works. It's really good.
Yeah.
But they're not pulling this kind of comedy while the movie still has a lot of other good comedy throughout. So it just feels very grating, and it feels like it really slows the film down.
That's fine.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Again,
I do because I do like whenever he shoves Selena off into a pool.
Oh,
like 3 stories.
Jump! Just okay, fine. I throw you.
Yeah, he just tosses her, and the scene where he yoinks May off the back of
the scooter.
The scooter. It's like, oh, it looks like that hurt.
Yeah, her tailbone probably hurt after that.
Oh
one.
yeah,
Woof. Yeah.
But that also is just like the perfect culmination of that whole sequence of bad events. And then he goes and he hurts her. And he's like, "Gah!" Like he can't win.
Can't do anything right.
So in terms of like the action scenes, right? You've got like specifically fights, not so much stunts, right? You've got the fight with the guys in the parking lot at Selena's right there, right? Like where he's
great fight where he's dancing around the car.
Oh yeah, they tear up the door.
They have the joke where like he gave her a jacket, but his gun's still in the jacket. So he can't use his gun.
There's a lot of that's like well choreographed and really intricate. Like there's a gag in the middle of what's happening that's serious.
Which
you know,
that to me, that's like the Jackie Chan style that I look for in his films, where there's a big fight, it's really important, and like in the middle of it, he's trying to protect a teddy bear or something. Something stupid's happening.
Dumb.
Right?
Well, because that's the thing is like there's always room for a joke with his films, because if you don't keep it even relatively light, then it becomes too serious, and then it becomes
crime story.
Or I'll say like a Bruce Lee film or something like that, where it's just overly heavy.
When he's always talked about in interviews how in fights when there's pauses in the action, Bruce Lee always does like the big flex, right? And makes some kind of noise or growl or whatever else. Whereas Jackie always makes a point to like shake his hands, like, oh god, this really hurts.
Rub his head.
Like, oh, this really hurts, to make it.
He's an everyman. He's
he's supposed to be the everyman. He's not supposed to be the superhero.
Right. Yeah.
And like that's a very big difference between him and like a lot of other big martial arts names like Bruce Lee, Jet Li,
Jet Li especially,
like those kind of people, because like that, I think that's why. Well, that's just why he's so relatable, and his films are really well regarded, just because he does have a lot of fun with it.
Well, and it was also a big difference, right? I mean, Bruce Lee was established kung fu movies in the West basically, and then we're exposed to this. It's like, oh, what a different take, what a different approach, Well,
and I think that's why he really like kind of took it by storm whenever he was in Rush Hour and then Shanghai Noon and that kind of stuff, because it was just a different style of action hero that we weren't used to seeing at the time.
With great action, but just humor left, right, center, just over and over and over, right?
Yeah. Particularly with his use about like finding stuff to utilize within his fights that made it like interesting and a little bit more dynamic than just like two guys just squaring up.
Right. Yeah. But like to keep talking about some of the fights, right? So you have that fight, and then like there's really just some smaller ones kind of peppered in until you get to like the mall.
Yeah, which is
really
just
like
the mall
15 minutes of
set piece. You can tell they spent months there shooting.
Right.
They're doing all kinds of things in this fight.
Which is honestly surprising, just because like usually when you hear about these Hong Kong productions, they're like
8 days. Done.
Yeah, like we got a week tops whole movie, like, and so like they spent that much time in there and got that intricate with like all the glass and all the.
I mean, you see it, right? Like Jackie Chan's pretty famous for like, hey, we're gonna do this over and over again until we get it right. When he's doing the phone gag and he flicks the pen or the pencil up to catch it to write.
Like 80 takes.
He does that for real, and it takes him as many takes as it takes, right?
Yeah.
Until he can flick it and catch it.
Well, and I think Selena's actress did a lot of her own stunts.
I think she did almost all of them,
except for jumping off the
I don't
building
think
into
she
the
did
pool.
the pool. To get thrown off into the pool.
Yeah.
But
I
she
think
did
that was it.
in all of the mall stuff. I'm pretty sure she did all of those.
Yeah, well, they show in the behind the credits, the bloopers and stuff of like her like being thrown onto the mat and then kind of walking through like, okay, like, this is gonna be really glass.
This is what's gonna be here. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they do show that in another Jackie Chan hallmark. I love the outtakes and behind the scenes that you get at the end of every film.
Yep.
I look forward to them so much,
Oh my
almost
gosh,
more than the movie. I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, let's get to these credits. I want to see where they messed up on everything.
So
I see a dude being dragged off borderline in a body bag.
But before we move past the mall fight,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like I do want to talk a little bit about how like for me, it's the rhythm of that fight and the way it like escalates and the way it like gets to a point to where he's jumping over the escalators and like things, and it leads to the MacGuffin of the case that she's like stolen all of his stuff.
It's a great insert because it's not just, hey, you have to defeat these three dudes, punch them down, fight it out.
Yeah.
It's, hey, while this is happening, there's another guy running around the mall, tossing the suitcase around. You got to keep track of it. You got to run it down, which leads to the big stunt.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, I feel like in a lot of films nowadays or of the era prior to that maybe, if you did that stunt, it would be to land on the bad guy. That's the final killing blow on the bad guy.
Right,
Yeah.
That
Whereas
would be
here,
the
he
thing.
just lands in the middle of nowhere and pops up, fights off a mook, and then keeps running.
Right. But I think adding the the layer of Selena protecting her and protecting the case.
You got all these conflicting
adds like a lot of angles to it that keeps it from being just I have to fight through this many dudes to get to the bad guy to have the final fight. You know, like it doesn't have that kind of a trajectory. It's like a moving target, up escalators, down stuff. In this other room, there's a motorcycle that runs through a bunch of glass.
Why do they have gas in that motorcycle? No one knows.
No one knows.
get in there somehow.
Yeah, they couldn't just roll it in. That's not how wheels work.
Put it in neutral. What's that?
So that for me is like one of the crowning achievements of the movie is how intricately they execute that and keep you like on the edge of your seat, and every turn and part of a fight where like, you know, he's fighting and then he like lays down on the stairs when the bike goes over it the first time. Like there's a lot of just, that's the other thing that all Jackie Chan movies have, I guess, but I just noticed it in this because I just watched it, you know, like last night. But it's like, it's the micro moments that happen in the fight that make you want to pause it and rewind it to go like, what did he, oh my God. And you go back.
How does he slide there? Like,
how did he get down that fast? And then you like watch him, you're like, oh man. And so for me, that whole mall scene is such a tour de force of like his style of choreography and framing action scenes. Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, kind of adding on to like, how did he get down there so fast, right? Like, watching it, my wife is like, well, they speed up some of these shots, right? And I was like, not really.
No, I don't think
you
they
might
do.
get some slow-mo.
Like they're quick.
Well, so speaking of a fun slow-mo shot, there's a bit in the mall whenever he gets thrown into this kind of like metal like shelving or whatever, and they have it as a slow-mo shot because they expect it to fall down, and it doesn't fall down.
And
like
then the
nothing
dude just
happens.
drops him on
and the stuntman's like, no, this is going down. And he just pulls it right down on top of him.
It does feel out of place that all of a sudden he goes brr, slow, and you're like, okay, what's going? And he just like flip. He kind of like his ankle kind of brushes it, and it like wobbles, and it's like okay, and then the stuntman's like, absolutely not.
Finish the job.
But it's like, just speed that footage up so it looks like he flips quick, and then they leave it slow. It's like, all right, cool. Plop.
I also like right at the beginning of the fight, he kicks a dude down the middle of the escalators.
You can just hear the squeak. That also like not only that one, like that's a fun one, but when the guy falls in between the stairs or whatever, like he goes down the middle and he goes like end over end and then lands, it's like, like,
or even just the one of the final like big guy in the white suit. I can't remember his name, but he gets thrown down the actual escalator.
Oh yeah, and he just like all the way down.
Do you imagine how hard the edges are on that?
It's a metal escalator.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
Man, as a stuntman back then, I just can't even imagine.
Well, and the glass too. Like we talked with the.
So we've talked about sugar glass. Explain what that is.
Okay, so basically, in rough terms, because I've never made it, so I'm not like an expert or whatever. It's basically like they form and melt glass together into like, it looks like. They melt sugar together to where it looks like a plane of glass, right?
In panes, basically.
Yeah, it's like clear. You can see through it, but it's much more brittle. It breaks a lot quicker.
It doesn't shatter into a million glass. Sharp shards.
Yes.
It looks like glass.
It's nowhere near as dangerous as like actual glass. And it's also, this is the thing a lot of people don't understand, is like actual glass is pretty durable sometimes.
Very durable.
Like you can bang your head on it and it doesn't break.
Modern glass,
like tempered glass,
holds together so well.
And so if you were to try to use real glass in any of this stuff, none of the stuff would be breaking. They would just bonk, like their heads would be
bouncing off it, taking incredible amounts of pain.
But it I guess especially with using, it's still hardened to a point to where it hurts. So it's not like this is like Nerf or something and they're just having fun. Yeah. So like for them to use double pane sugar glass is like basically in between using movie glass and real glass, probably, but it looks more realistic. It doesn't look like fake glass. I guess.
So there's a stunt in Police Story 2 where he jumps from a bus, basically from a sign to a bus to another sign. But he like
goes out
glass,
the windows.
The glass he goes through that is actual plate glass.
It's real. Yeah.
Mostly because it was so big that they couldn't make it with.
And I think it was an actual structure already.
It was,
so they were just like, use it. Like
we'll fix it. Whatever.
Okay, so real quick, would you recommend this movie? Let's start with Steven and then go to Andrew. Would you recommend this?
I mean, yeah. Okay. I feel like for a Western audience, right, an initial introduction to Jackie Chan, I don't know if this is the best way to do it unless you've got someone who's already a big Kung Fu fan. In which case, I don't know how you have to introduce them to Jackie Chan.
The Venn diagram is narrowing.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like once they've been exposed to Jackie Chan, it's kind of one of those like, all right, well, let's rewind it. Let's show
go back
how,
to the
how it all
classics.
happens and where. Because at that point, if you're familiar with Jackie Chan, with the insanity of his stunts,
right?
It's one of those things where it's the Lord of the Rings meme of Aragorn kicking the helmet. Everyone wants to be, he actually broke his toe there.
Yeah.
Everyone, when Jackie Chan slides down the pole, is, he actually, burned like right. But like, you have to have someone who's already primed for that before you get them there.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is a good starter for it. I think there's way better ways to start someone with Jackie Chan. But if you want to be a Jackie Chan fan, you're gonna have to. You gotta watch Police Story.
I think I agree completely with Steven on this. That like I don't think I would recommend this as like your first Chan movie, but if you've seen even 1 or 2 Jackie Chan movies, if you're already in the ecosystem,
you're familiar and you like it,
check it out.
You got to go to the start. Yeah.
What do you think, Andrew?
As someone who showed this film to my wife, who had never seen a Jackie Chan film before this one, and she loves Jackie Chan films, I think you guys are wrong.
Okay. Hey.
Andrew tried it once. It worked. 100% success rate.
100%. 70% of the time, it works 100% of the time.
But no, right. I would definitely recommend it. But I can agree that there are other easier to get into Jackie Chan films.
Yeah. Just some of the more modern ones, I think, have a bit more modern conveniences.
And you don't even have to go that modern.
No.
With it. You just need to
go mid-90s.
Rumble in the Bronx or, something like that.
Rumble in the Bronx, First Strike, Super Cop.
Yeah. If you've got any of those under your belt, check this out.
Yep.
Okay, obviously, I think we'd all rewatch it. I don't think we need to.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've all seen it multiple times.
I have the Criterion Collection. Thank you very much.
I have a Criterion. How many times has he said that on this podcast? Twice. I just counted as 2. Okay. Speaking of Criterion, we have a very similar thing. We have our Patreon. Andrew, finish that joke for me.
What?
Make the connection and make it good.
For just $1 low a month, you can get access to all of our bonus episodes, commentaries, Patreon picks, polls, where
just
you get to
like
choose.
Criterion.
Yeah, just like Criterion.
It's very like Criterion. It just costs a whole heck of a lot less.
Yeah, it's just same quality as Criterion. I'll say it. I'll go out on a limb.
But yeah, for just $1 a month, you get access to all of our stuff. Patreon picks polls. You get to vote on what we're going to review. It'll be early access to patrons, and then before it enters the main feed, we have great bonus episodes that we do some fun stuff with. We fight presidents. We do Chat GPT, movie creation. We also have tier lists of Halloween candies and sodas and all sorts of fun stuff.
We also have martial arts recommendations.
We do.
So,
it's out right now.
Yeah, like if you've made it this far into the episode and you want to know more, you're like hungry for more martial arts films. We have a whole Patreon bonus episode.
Wild with some of those recommendations.
And we give you recommendations for people who are like brand new to this, who are deep into it. Yep. Like it's a good episode. All right. Well, on that note, I think we're about wrapped up. So leave us a review, like us on Facebook and Instagram, share us with a friend, do all that good stuff. Until next time, I'm Ryan.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Steven.
And every spoiler was intended.